Hi, Tess and Guido. Happy Memorial Day. Let's dive right in. I think at this point, the floor plan probably shows a lot. You seem to have a good grasp on space, but I do want to point out a few things. So I figure a walkthrough video is a good way to do it, good place to do it. And you'll see right off the bat, as we go through, I'll model everything here on the facade, and we can talk through the details as far as what everything ends up being. But you'll see that this is a glass garage now, the two glass garage doors on this side. And I'll also send in an email to you pricing information just to show you that for your consideration. But I know that is something you want, and I think it would be absolutely awesome. I am all for it. It's just a matter of affordability. So please let me know your thoughts on that once you see the pricing. That I'm not making it up. I wish I was. I love glass garage doors. So coming in the space, this is now wider. It's just about 12 feet. And you have lockers on the left side. You have a place for shoes or a bench on the right side. The retail and the couch, as you had sketched and asked about. And I've placed the water fountain in the middle, which I'll go over why it is that way. And you have the larger opening between the two spaces. As we go through this, it will be important to identify, for example, for this shoe area, if it's storage, if it's a bench, if it's built in, or if it's furniture. That is the most important thing with all these items, are if they are built in or if they're furniture. So I'm assuming for the reception desk, we will build this in. You'll have the ADA height and the standing transaction desk height. But for example, if you were to purchase a piece of furniture, a desk that comply with ADA, that would be more economical, and I wouldn't have to show it in my plans, versus if it's built in, I do have to show it. And same thing with the lockers here. So if those are actual lockers, like a locker product, then I have to show, I think a couch should be fine. But we have that bench requirement, so it's a bench or seating with a back. And that couch should satisfy that requirement. If these are, for example, cabinets or shoe storage and not lockers as are defined by the code. So if that's cabinets you were to build as opposed to lockers, then it does not have that bench requirement. We couldn't use that for the locker rooms. I think locker rooms are well known. But you'll see that the entrances have changed. And I do like this a whole lot as far as having a separate male and female entrance on each side. And I'm showing this as the male. And we can go through ceiling heights and things like that, but just the general layout. So what I want to show is with both of these, the biggest, I'll say, challenge or problem is when you are right at this corner, you can see in. So not out here where most people should be, but if someone stood in the corner by this doorway, you can see in. And so that's just something to keep in mind. I point that out because on the Element Aqua project, I'll share with you the original design, had a laser cut screen in front, which was to shield everyone's view. Because of budget, the owner decided not to proceed with that. And then after she didn't, she realized, oh wait, you can see in from the sides, which is exactly what I had warned about, similar to this. And she ended up purchasing and putting in some wood doors that I really don't like and can't stand. It was done without my involvement. So I want to make sure we don't have that same sort of problem when we talk about it now. Give you exactly what you want and make it work. The other issue with those doors is that that walkway then has to be 5 feet, not 4 feet. So as long as people are in the main space, it works extremely, extremely well, and I think it's good. And you can see in plan some of the moves that I've made to ensure privacy and make sure that no one has that view in. But if once they come past these lockers to the very corner by the door, you could see through. So just something to keep in mind. Once you come in, this is the vestibule. I put in these bi-parting barn doors. So it's a 4 foot wide opening with 2 foot doors, and so this could extend whatever the nominal length ends up being. We have space, and I do think this works very well because the doors can then lock into each other. It's just the type of hardware that we buy, as opposed to having it lock and latch into the door, where you have hardware on here and it either needs to be pulled out with a finger, almost like a pocket door, or the typical hardware sticks out a little bit where it locks in. It can get caught on people's clothing. So I do like, that's one aspect I really do like about this plan, are these bi-parting barn doors, which allow you to comply with ADA. You still have the clearance here, and you are also able to lock those and close off the showers when you want. Now you'll see coming across here, you have the ADA shower. That's the 3x3, and that's with a 3 foot by 5 foot clearance in front of it. And then over here you have the second shower, and that is 3 feet by 4 feet, so 3 feet wide, 4 feet deep. Could make this 3x3 just like the other one, have an extra foot or so. If I remember correctly, it might actually be a little bit more than 4 feet. But the point being, we could extend that out. So because that is not ADA on that side, you need one male, one female. You could make that shower a little bit bigger and have it align. And as we get into this, the other question will be where the tile starts and stops. So I am showing right now, just so you know, with the wall thicknesses, that the tile is all inside of this space, and then it comes and it stops at the corner of the opening, and the inside of the locker room is all basically drywall. It's a type X wall board, which is water resistant. It's like a cement board. You paint it, it'll look nice, just like a clean drywall, and it's water resistant, mildew resistant, but it's less expensive than if you were to tile the entire locker room. And same thing with the floors. You kind of see here an indication of the tile being on the inside, and then this, I am thinking right now, could be polished concrete, because they will have to rip up the concrete foundation that's there now to run the plumbing and piping. And so when you pour a new concrete, we can just make that a finished concrete with a topping coat and polish it. Again, that's the most economical, and limiting the tile to the space. Of course, other options, you could bring the tile out here and have a transition, but you'd have a transition at the doorway. So some things like that as we get into the details, just to get your mind spinning on it and think about how the space will actually appear, since I'm presenting this just in white. And anyway, let's go to the layout. So you have the lockers, and we'll have storage above with the bench. Now this is 7 feet wide, 7 feet clear. So if you have double stacked 1 foot wide lockers, you have 14 lockers. And I do think that is a good space. Anything smaller, I think, starts to feel extremely tiny. At the same time, I know this is yoga, and a lot of people will come already changed and not even use this space, so we don't want to make it too big. And then, of course, we have the bathroom through the door, the toilet room with the sink and the toilet. And of course, talk through the design here, whether you want a wall hung sink or you want to build something in. Again, that comes down to cost and what's important to you. So that is that space. What I'm saying is the men's locker room, or changing room. And then you will end up seeing, this is a nice big wall, and rather than having a niche built in for the drinking fountain, what I think could work well here is if you have seating, a couch or lounge or whatever ends up being, potted plants, and then the lockers or cabinets, is that you have basically a natural niche that's created because you have furniture per se on each side. It's kind of set in, so it's not just jutting out into the space. So it's making use of that wall. And what I think works well, of course, you tell me your thoughts. It's just the circulation that people coming out of the space have the water fountain right there, as opposed to having to go near your area or somewhere else, and it's not closer or further away from the male or female ends. And this is just an indication for the fire extinguisher. You can put it just about anywhere in the space that's within reach. And as we go through this and we discuss how the lighting is controlled, or if there's a wireless pad, if you want to control it by your phone, if you want traditional switches, I am thinking that this could be a good location also for light control. So where exactly that ends up going, we can look at further. I haven't modeled what I'm assuming you'll have some lower base cabinets and upper cabinets or full height cabinets. I don't know if you want a copy machine, printer, but you might want to start thinking about all the different items that you would want in this space, and you can plan out where it goes. And this is that large window. Again, it doesn't quite translate, I don't think, in this walkthrough that is 7 feet wide. So there's a very long window, so that both working here and from the other side, you see through the space. But I want to emphasize that it's 7 feet. That's a doorway height. It's a very large window to give you a sense of scale. And we'll go into that space later. I'll take it through the way we've been going. So now through the female side. So this is what is controlling the entire layout, that column in the middle. So you have the column in the middle. You need 3 feet clear between the wall and that corner, the column in the corner of the wall. So this is controlling where the entrance is to the locker room. And then the other thing you'll see is I extended this wall out. The reason I did that is to protect the view into the locker room. So again, if you come right in this corner, so right in here, you can see in, just right in that corner. If this wall were not there, from the reception or walking by to go to the office, you would see right in. So that's why this wall comes out, is it's generated to give you that privacy. And again, you only see in just as you turn that corner. Otherwise, except for going in that locker room from right here, the view is protected. So you'll see that this corridor is longer. You have, you could say it's some dead space here, but also you could put a nice potted plant or a little end table, all sorts of stuff. I'm not sure if you like, not incense, but the, what's the thing called that I have that gives off the fumes. You could put there on a little end table. So you'll see you have that, the aromatherapy. And it's a mirror image other than that entrance. And again, here with this design, it is designed for shower curtains, not for doors. And I say that because shower curtains, 1, are more affordable, and 2, because otherwise you need door clearances for the doors, which takes up a lot more space in the layout. And I'll just walk through here, through the doorway. So you have those back-to-back toilets and the sink. And I think it works extremely well to have that one wet wall, we call it, so you have back-to-back showers, back-to-back toilets. That will definitely save on cost. So hopefully that gives you, a good idea of this new layout as far as the locker rooms are concerned, changing rooms. We come out. One thing I want to point out I've done differently in this, and please feel free to give me your feedback, is I've stopped this lowered ceiling portion at this wall and have the reception desk coming out from that space, so this end of the desk aligns with the underside right here. That's different than you would normally see. A lot of times this drop ceiling comes out and you'll have pendant lights hanging down to kind of show the reception, and that is a very traditional reception design. The main place that comes from is that with the lowered ceiling, this reflects sound. And so, for example, with doctor's offices or things like that, if the receptionist is calling for you, it's good to have a lowered ceiling because the sound will reflect and carry through. But by having this open, you have less than that. The sound will carry more and not be as echoey or as loud. And personally, I just imagine myself sitting in the space. I would rather have it be more open, and it kind of puts you in the space. If anyone's sitting on the couch, I feel it's more communal, as opposed to separated. And then the other thing, of course, is it gives you more room back here. So just to see that in context, is that the back of that desk aligns with this wall. So let me know what you think. Of course, I am happy to hear your thoughts if you like that or not. And one thing to keep in mind in this space is, again, I'm assuming you'll have lower base cabinets, which are usually at least 2 feet deep. 2'1" is a good nominal dimension. So you'll have 2 feet, and then you need 5 feet of clearance inside for a wheelchair to turn around. So if someone was working in a wheelchair, they have that ADA clearance. So that gives you an idea of the space that you need. Pretty much a minimum of 7 feet, and 7'6" is really kind of the minimum recommended. Right now I have 9 feet, so it's more generous to where you could have possibly 2 people in the space, or if you have a copier, for example, a copy machine that might be 2.5 feet wide or a little bigger, piece of equipment, whatever it is, or storage, you have more space in there. Now the back of house. On the plans, I've now changed the name of this again to private office, and that is very intentional. Again, I've created a niche with the mop sink and then the ADA compliant stacked washer and dryer, and then the staff toilet room through here. The reason I have named this private office on the plans, and you'll notice the doors swing in these rooms, is so we can't have the doors swing in. So technically, the way the fire code is written, which is part of the building code, so the Florida Fire Prevention Code, a door can only swing in, which is against the path of egress, against which way you would walk to exit a building if there was a fire, if it is a private office where only one person can come in. Or there's also an exception if the capacity, if the load is less than 50 people. That's the letter of the law. So you would think, well, of course, there are less than 50 people in here. But my experience with Miami fire officials and their reviewers is that even though that's what the code says, they almost always force you to have the doors swing out. It depends on the individual reviewer assigned to the project, because they are able to apply and interpret the code as they see fit. So the fire official can say, I think that it's in the best interest for this building, for example, because it's not sprinklered, it doesn't have fire sprinklers, that all doors need to swing out, and it's up to that fire official to make that determination whether or not the code says it is required. So that's why I'm hesitant to have doors swing in, just because I've had an official at Miami one time, even for a storage closet, force the door to swing out, which makes absolutely no sense for a closet that you couldn't even walk into, but that was how he felt. So rather than trying to say, well, there will be less than 50 people in here and that's what the code says, I'm going for the other exception, which should be fairly obvious, and I hope that they are good with, which is it is a private office, so only one person comes in here, only one person goes into the bathroom, and therefore you should let the doors swing in. That is completely code compliant. So that's why it says private office in this space. And you'll notice I've moved the window over here, being that the washer and dryer are on this side. Part of the reason for that is that you will have a vent coming out, I'm assuming, for the dryer. I know they do make ductless dryers, but they are not as efficient and not as commonly used here in America. Usually you'll have a ducted vent that goes out, and putting the washer and dryer to this side, you'll notice pretty much all the versions I've had that, so that the duct run is limited, saving you on costs for the mechanical. And having this window over here is because the duct, so where this vents out the side, needs to be 4 feet away minimum. So the vent is required to be 4 feet minimum away from any opening. And so that's why the window's here. The vent would be over here. And that is just good in general also, because you do have stuff coming out that vent from the dryer, and it'll make your windows dirtier. So just one thing to keep in mind. And then this is for the private staff bathroom, and I've placed the sink and toilet on the same wet wall. By wet wall I mean there's plumbing in it. And then this is the 5x3 shower, so it's an ADA compliant staff shower. And so that is the new proposed plan, having the mop sink in the space. Again, that's all along that wet wall. So trying to minimize the pipe runs, you still will have to tear up just about all of the floor. But I do want to say that is another reason why the water fountain, I think, works well on this side in general, as opposed to being on this side, because all of your piping and plumbing is in here, and where I've located it is just opposite the showers, so there will already be water lines within there, which will help with efficiency. One other thing I should point out, as far as this exit door, fire door, and the reason for it being here as opposed to its existing location. In the first version I put together, I did have that door through the shower in that space, and cost-wise, of course, it would be good to have it in there. But one thing I realized as I was working through it and thought about more is the path of travel. So if you are in that other space and you have someone exiting because there's a fire, you're supposed to limit the number of rooms someone has to pass through to exit, because any space, any new room they have to go through needs to be fireproof and fire rated. And so that adds to the cost if we have them go through another room to exit. So you can come out of one room and then into a space to exit. If you have to pass through another room, that room needs to be fire rated. So by having this as one space, we minimize that cost for fire rating. I know you're paying for a new opening here, so how much that saves, it might just be a little bit, not a whole lot, but I also think it works better because you aren't going to have an exit sign and lights telling everyone to go through your office, to go through a shower, go through another space to exit. It's a little convoluted, as opposed to you have an exit on each end. It's very straightforward through the public space. And I apologize, a lot of times I'll do stuff, design-wise, that's in my head that I know. I don't always explain it, so that's why I'm trying to make this video and share more as far as what is what and why it is. And you'll see this larger opening. And as far as these dimensions along this wall, if you have thoughts of certain things you want, please let me know. If you want a different window size, different opening size, retail, the bench, what exactly you plan to put here, for shoes or plants, we can plan accordingly. It is fairly flexible along here, which is good. And coming through the space, again, we have the large wall to present. And this I'm showing as the glass. This is what I had before. The exact heights as far as these mullions and muttons and such, we can discuss and work the whole design. So if you do go with a glass garage, we could align where those go if you want chair rail height, mullion across, etc. Right now, this is just capped at a nominal height, like the doors, and then a transom above. And you'll see I've placed the garage doors here. One thing I want to show to you, just to point out, of course, with your tall ceilings in here, is you will need a track for the garage doors to come up. So the garage doors will come up, which means we need this to tie in to something. Obviously, it doesn't actually float, so we would need some structure, likely steel, built in here for this to tie to. So that's in addition to the actual garage doors, is the structure for it, not only in the concrete, but as far as how this track attaches. I point that out because, again, I absolutely love garage doors. I like having the ability to open and close. With that said, I would say that for these 2 garage doors, you are looking at a cost of between $50,000 and $60,000. If you were to do sliding doors, let's say, for example, like this, where these two doors slide open to each side and the rest is fixed, that price is around $12,000 for the product as opposed to $20,000. Plus, you wouldn't need any other additional structure. So you're probably, let's call each of these $25,000 minus 15 if we round up, so that's saving $20,000 more or less, for going for something like this where these slide open, 2 doors slide open as opposed to glass garage doors. That is your choice completely. I would prefer that you use the glass garage doors, but I do want you to know the cost implications, because I do think that will exceed the numbers we've already discussed as far as the construction budget. And I say this especially because there is a project, just like I mentioned with Element Aqua with the locker rooms. There's a restaurant I worked on, and I'll provide that quote. It's a handful of years old now, I think from 2016, where I pushed the client to place glass garage doors. I wanted the restaurant to open up to the garden and patio, and I loved it. And once he agreed to everything, we discussed the price, then he got the price for the rest of the project, and he wanted to change back to do, it's actually, he ended up doing storefront with 2 swing doors, basically a French door swinging out like I have at the entrance. And so it was an additional cost because everything was already approved. So if we change it, we have it done, and then we go back and change it again later, that is an additional cost to redo the drawings. So I would prefer that whatever we do, we decide now, the sooner the better, and make it what you want. So try to give all the information I can to inform your decisions. So that is it. I like it. I hope you like it. I think this layout works well, and I've kind of said the pluses and minuses of everything, and I look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully the 3rd time is a charm. Thanks again.